Hello, welcome to Ladies Corner. My name is T. It's Thursday night. Tonight's my night, and I'm excited to introduce April DelaPaz. She's the president of Heart of Yeg Filipino community. In this pandemic season, nonprofits and charities they're doing incredible work. And at LCC Media, we do our best to showcase what they're doing in our own effort to say thank you for the service they do, for the work they do in our communities. And April is president, like I said earlier, of Heart of Yeg Filipino community. And I thank you so much, April, for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be here. Thank you.
Why did you start this charity? What was the gap you were
Well,
looking to fill?
yeah, so actually, I'm here to also mostly speak about Tayo. So, Tayo is an organization that Heart of Yeg is a part of. And they wanted to create an empowered and engaged youth leaders working to build a strong and united Filipino community. So, it's really to inspire the youth and engage them to become future leaders in the community. And another reason why it was created is to have a network and a place of collaboration between Filipino youth organizations and to ignite a feeling of bayanihan. And what bayanihan means is to help each other out in the community and also to identify gaps within the youth. And so, yes, that's why the charity was created.
When you look at your work so far, Tayo Yeg or at Out of Yeg, do you find that people are warming up towards your aims and objectives? Do you find a receptive community to carry out your work?
Yeah, actually, I think that right now, the reception, I mean, because it's a pandemic and Tayo really only began last year. I think in terms of the initiatives currently, it's been very well received by the community. There are quite a few initiatives that Tayo is working on. There was one called Salt for Seniors, so that's Sunday Awesome Lunch Treat. So we know that seniors right now are very high risk. And so organizations like Heart of Yeg and the Filipino Student Association at the University of Alberta, they came and gave some goods to the seniors. And we got some support from the Edmonton Mennonite Center for Newcomers. They gave 10 tablets so that they could be distributed to seniors and they could feel connected with their family during this time. And during that, actually, there was like the seniors told us that they needed help with technology. So now some of the members of Tayo are helping seniors with technology, which has been kind of a struggle for them, especially at this time. And we've also had, excuse me, some organizations reach out regarding youth and mental health, not just during the pandemic, but also in general, like trying to assimilate into Canada and the challenges they're facing. And Tayo and Heart of Yeg actually are collaborating for a mental health series. So that has started. It's called Unawa, which means to understand. And it's actually also a podcast. So it can be listened to on podcasts and on YouTube as well. So I think that it's been quite well received and we're starting to get the traction that and the exposure that we need to get out there into the community.
When you look at some of our community organizations, unfortunately, there's a lot of infighting. Do you find that you're able to move swiftly to work well with within Tayo Ye? Do you find it's a nice? Do you find your community helpful? I say this because I hear different things from different community.
Yeah.
Infighting, jealousy, malice and that does not
Right.
happen in the Filipino community. Definitely.
Mm.
What's your experience been like?
Well, I think this is a new generation. So um, I know that with Heart of Yag, we actually started as Taguig community of Edmonton. And the old mentality, they like to call it crab mentality, I guess, is that they, instead of joining an organization or collaborating with an organization, everyone kind of um, creates their own and puts other organizations down, or they don't work together and they just do their own initiatives, which is great because they're helping. But I think what's really wonderful about what's happening now is that our generation, it's finally starting to come to light that we unite and move together as a whole community rather than trying to tear each other down or showing each other up. It's more about collaboration and uniting and working together for a similar goal and a similar purpose.
Many times when people set up not for profits, they do it not to make money, or not to become, I say, millionaires. And the question, I
Mhm.
suppose, in this day and age is, why do you care, or why do you do Tayo Yeg? Why do you invest a lot of your time in out of in the charity which you're president?
Um, that's a really good question, and I appreciate that I got it beforehand because it really made me reflect on why do I care. And with working with Tayo and Heart of Yeg, um, we had no idea that there is such a need in the Filipino community for inspiration for the next generation. I grew up here, and um, some of the members in Tayo also grew up here, and members of Heart of Yeg. We all grew up in Edmonton, and we had not the same experiences as what the youth right now are going through. And we had no idea that this was happening or that there was even a gap that needed to be filled. And I think that's why I care so much is I myself as a mom, I want my children to also be, um, I want them to be proud to be Filipino, and I want to help the community move into a positive direction and to help the next generation realize that they have a bright future here and that they can create a positive future environment and be successful. But in order to have that, we have to change the mindset of this demographic. Um, like a lot of us didn't know that there were so many people, especially youth, struggling. And if we can help them, even a few of them, to create a positive impact, that to me is enough for me to really care. And you're right, you don't become a millionaire, you don't you don't make money in doing something like this. You have to um it's almost like a calling. It's always been a calling for me, even when I was younger, growing up here. It's like, how can we help? And I think that growing up with great mentors in my parents and my aunts and my uncles who began um, the nonprofit that the youth has now taken over. That's the inspiration that instilled the want to help people in us, and so here we are.
Mm. I mean, you said a lot of things there, quite a lot to unpack, and I suppose the follow up question for me is, how then do you get to maybe Filipinos that migrated here, um, who were not born here like you? The narratives will be different. How do you
Yeah.
reach them, and how do you maybe reach those who've been here 20 years, who and maybe even still struggling, and they may be calling Edmonton their home, but their heart is
Mhm.
back in the Philippines. What are you doing to get those who are a bit ahead of and those who came here as children who weren't born here, but maybe feel more Filipino than those who were born here,
Mhm.
who maybe have no idea, like, you know,
Yeah.
about what it's like um, uh, being Filipino.
Yeah. So my cousin is actually a provisional psychologist, and she opened my eyes to this. Before Heart of Yig came into inception and before we got involved with Tayo, we were helping a lot in the Philippines itself because we had no idea that this was happening. So I think reaching the youth, we actually, with the Tayo group, had a meeting recently with a few, I guess you would say, counselors in schools. So they're noticing that, especially with the pandemic, there's been an increase in challenges in these youth's lives, and their relationships with their parents have become really estranged and difficult. Uh, and so with beginning with that and getting into like schools, high school, junior high, and doing an all-encompassing mental health webinar, I think that's one really great way that we're starting to connect with the youth that are having these issues. And another way that we've been getting out into the community and starting to connect is, like I said, with the seniors as well, is going to the elderly and seeing how they feel and what they felt, coming here back then, as opposed to coming here now. Like, what is the difference? Or is there a difference? Was there a huge struggle then when they came? Were their children also struggling? And how did they help their children back then? And how did they succeed in that or not? And learning from our elders as well.
Mm. Thank you very much. If you had the wish list of the kind of support you want from the community, what would it be, April?
Um, that's an interesting question. The kind of support that we'd want from the community. I think, especially with older organizations and, like I said, with our elders, I think to work together and to uplift and support what we're trying to do with this new generation. I think that's really important because we need that guidance from them, and also from, youth leaders, other organizations, people who are working in the trenches, to reach out to us and say, here's the gap, or here's the challenges that these youth are facing, and how can we all come together and help them? Because we need to identify that before we can start um, even discussing solutions. And I think that's what's happening now, is with the traction and the exposure that Tayo and Heart of Yeg are getting, um, people are starting to take notice, and they're starting to reach out and say, hey, this is happening. What can we do to help these or these youth and the demographic that we're trying to help?
Would you say the pandemic has affected you in any way?
Me, myself personally, or the group?
Personally, and as you personally, April, and then as a group.
Okay. Well, like I was telling you, I guess in the beginning, I had my son um, when the state of emergency happened. So it has greatly impacted me and my sense of community. My son didn't meet any family in person for, I would say, 3 months. They only saw him through a car window or our window. So it has been challenging.
Hmm.
And also not having that support from grandparents, parents. I also have a 94-year-old grandmother, and she's been quite, how do I put it? Um, I think she's quite sad that she hasn't met my son in person, or have, I mean, she's met him once in person in the back of our vehicle, but she hasn't really had a chance to spend time with him or held him or anything like that. So, and being 94, it's been really difficult. So, I mean, the pandemic has really affected me in that way. But I'm obviously still very grateful that, you know, I have my child and my health, and that and now since some of the restrictions have been lifted, we've been able to be more social with the grandparents, so they can now come and see my son with, you know, with health measures, obviously. But it has been a challenge. Now, in terms of the group, both groups with Tayo and Heart of Yeg, it's been challenging to get together and really conceptualize how to go out and help the community. But with modern technology like we are having today, it's been okay, I think, in terms of being able to reach out to people. And like I said, doing the conversational series on mental health, which is a great time to start it, because like you said, the pandemic, it's been very challenging for all or most of us, if not all. And so I think that with the help of technology and social media, it's been manageable within the organizations.
Mm.
In terms of Heart of Yeg, we do a lot of actually, we've shifted to doing a lot of volunteer work in Edmonton, and that hasn't really come to fruition because of all the restrictions. And so that's really held us back in some of our initiatives, but it hasn't held us back in terms of getting together, social distancing. When it was summer, we would go to the park and do our meetings there, or on Zoom or Google Meet. So we're still out there doing the work. It's just in a different way.
I want to say thank you, April, for coming on tonight. You are the president of Heart of Yeg, Filipino community, but tonight you've come to talk about Tayo Yeg, a combination, a mesh of different Filipino community organizations. Before you go,
Mhm.
tonight is the presidential debate between Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald Trump. Who, if you were American, who would you vote for?
Oh, is that even a question? um, I would. You said, how do you pronounce his name? But Biden.
Vice
Biden.
President Biden. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Anyone.
okay, okay. I was listening to the news today, and I could not believe some people would give President Donald Trump another chance. But hey
I
ho, we're here in Canada.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah, absolutely there. Thank you again for coming on the show. Wish you all the best with all that you do in the community. Keep in
Thank you
touch.
so
Let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And all of us from Tayo and Heart of Yeg really appreciate the exposure and getting to tell our story. So thank you so much.
All right then, April. Thank you.